Come with me on an idle ride as we watch The Last of Us together.
Can't be any worse out there. Can it? I can take care of myself!
How many close calls have we had?
Ellie! Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look. Sweet Jesus.
Doctor?
What are you doing in here? This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for.
Welcome to Idle Ride, a podcast dedicated to casual enthusiasm for all things pop culture. I'm Marcy, your host, here with my chosen brother, Paul.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul.
To discuss the 7th episode of The Last of Us TV series titled Left Behind. And this episode is another one that's just a fully contained flashback. There's bookends with Ellie and Joel, but otherwise we get to see Ellie meet her first love, Riley, and their experiences at the mall.
Spoiler alert, the mall is amazing in this world.
It's true. When we first come on the mall, I have that feeling of wonder just like Ellie does. But I just want to clarify with you because I remember from the game that it was kind of a secret cutscene that you had to do things for. But I looked online to see if I was right about that because I can't remember clearly, obviously, some of this stuff. So I feel like you could miss that scene if you wanted, if you didn't do certain things to see it. Am I wrong about that, Paul?
I feel like it's a New Game Plus feature, so you're right that if you don't play New Game Plus, like, you'll just never see it.
I think it was part of the original game, though. It's a shorter clip scene, and they do kiss in it, but I think you have to do some special little quests to get that final flashback scene.
Well, now I feel like an idiot because I did not prepare for this question, and I don't know.
I tried to prepare for my own question. And because there's so much stuff out there on the new Last of Us and her new girlfriend and all that stuff, I mean, I guess I could have just looked up a walkthrough of the original Last of Us game.
Oh, like a Let's Play or something, yeah.
When I was playing video games from a very young age, you would actually literally go on and find documents that were walkthroughs of the game to help you through stuff.
You would buy a magazine and look at the pages. A page is a thing that is physical.
Anyway, I guess I apologize to everybody else, but because I played it when it originally came out, I do remember the scene, but I remember it being really short. I remember that I had to do a bunch of things to get that scene. And then it was kind of a surprise, and I don't think it happened the first time I played Last of Us. Like, I don't think I saw it the first time I played it, but maybe the second time.
I am overjoyed that you played it more than once.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, the first time I played it, I was like, oh, I gotta play this again. If you love something so much, you feel like you want to relive it and see things that you might have missed before, and I think I had missed the cutscene the first time through, and so when I played it again, and this is how Marcy plays video games, I was talking about how I get good at playing games and sometimes beat them before all of you guys, is because I'll only play the beginning for, like, 2 or 3 run-throughs, and I'll be like, I can't fail like that. I have to restart, and I'll restart the game until I get good at all the mechanics, and then I play it all the way through.
Oh, interesting. You're like a roguelike for every game.
Yeah, I basically can't handle it if I don't know how to play the game correctly, and then I fucked it all up. So I have to restart it until I'm good at it, and then I complete it.
I love that.
It's probably not the kosher way to play, but that's how I do it, guys. That's how I beat it. FTL before all you guys!
You really did. You were amazing at FTL.
This first scene is basically Ellie desperate to save Joel before we flash back to the orphanage. I think we start where they do kind of a drone view of how they get to the house that he's in the basement of.
They do, because my notes say, bloody snow tracks, like usual in Alaska.
Yeah. And they show the horse, that she's actually still got the horse, and he's hanging out in the garage of this house. And then you find them in the basement. She's desperately like trying to get his jacket off, and he grabs her And he's like, just go to Tommy, leave me here. And she's like, fuck you, Joel. Fuck you.
Fuck you, I don't listen to you.
So that's the first clip that I'm going to share.
Yes.
Go on, go! Listen to me! Go! Get out of here! Go! Go on!
Yep, that's the actual clip.
I couldn't help it because I remember last time we were talking about it being like Old Yeller because he keeps telling her to go away. But I spent so much time because I was looking at Old Yeller clips and I was like, where's that scene? And there is a scene like it where he's tossing rocks at Old Yeller, but he doesn't actually say, go on, get, like I thought he did. So then I was like, what movie am I thinking of? And I was like, White Fang. It's White Fang. Every time I think of Joel when he's, you know, telling her to get out, get away from me, I love you so much, I don't want you to be close to me. I think of these White Fang moments or these animal moments where people are always trying to get animals that love them to leave them alone.
I love that. To be real, when I was watching that scene again, I noticed that Joel said Tom, not Tommy. Like, he was fucking serious. Go to Tom, get my gun. He was ready to die and give everything Ellie needed.
For this scene, it makes me think of all the times that Joel has kind of just decided that he's gonna die. Like, I'm gonna die, it's my time. Like, I'm gonna drink my life away with pills and booze. Like, there's a lot of scenes in this episode particularly that are kind of callbacks to Joel and Ellie. And that's one of them. Like, you see the dead body with the booze and the alcohol.
That's a good comparison or reference, yeah.
Joel's just, he's done with his life, kind of, and Ellie keeps bringing him back.
Any corpse that we've ever seen, but Ellie won't let him.
Yeah, it's just like, fuck you, Joel, you have to stay alive.
I need you.
And then they just kind of do a quick smash cut to Ellie running around a gym with a Walkman on.
You say smash cut, but I thought it was a really beautiful transition because there was a hesitating hand reaching to the doorknob and then darkness and then transition. I don't know. I thought it was cute.
Okay. A cute cut to the scene where she's running around the gym with her Walkman.
Yeah.
I've tossed in some of the songs. They all do add a certain tone to each scene that they're in. So this is Pearl Jam's All or None. And
1987.
1987. And I think this is a good callback to in episode 3, I believe, when John was hosting with us. We talked about what we thought her early life might be. And we discussed that we thought it might be Fedra and an orphanage and how they're probably training them to be soldiers in their army. And here we go.
You're right.
This is why she can hike for 5 hours. This is why she's got the stamina that she's got, because they were basically training them to be soldiers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So this is why spoilers don't matter. We predicted it. We were exactly right, but we weren't sure how we were right. And it just feels good to be right.
Because we watch so much media. Like, I'm pretty sure I know this kid's backstory, even though they haven't shown it. As she's running some dickhole.
Bethany.
Bethany. Oh, that is a dickhole name, isn't it?
Yeah. Fuck you, Karen and Bethany.
Comes by Ellie and rips her Walkman off her head and don't get us in trouble anymore. I don't know what she was mad at.
Yeah, that's basically the point, is that Ellie's got a bad attitude and she doesn't do what she's told, and that makes...
She doesn't conform.
Exactly, and that makes everyone else in the class, or whatever the fuck they call their cohort, suffer. So Bethany has a valid point, but she's also gonna get her ass beat.
A bully.
Yeah.
And I just love that before Ellie probably just let Riley beat on her enemies, but it wasn't that she couldn't win. Obviously, because she put somebody in the infirmary.
Yeah.
Bethany does not know Ellie well if she thinks Ellie's not going to fight for herself.
Yeah, that was a big blunder on her part.
And then they cut directly to Ellie getting a lecture from the headmaster of this orphanage / training grounds for their soldiers. And she just says, why don't you put me back in solitary?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Like, torture's no big deal for me.
And the headmaster has already learned that there's no point in doing that because she doesn't mind it, probably likes being alone in there. And for me, when I was watching this scene, we've had a lot of times when Ellie meets an adult and the adult's like, you're smart, you're a leader, you could do all kinds of things with your life. And you can just see it on her face that she does not give a fuck about that. And it's a good juxtaposition between Joel and these other adults who only kind of see her as a future leader and somebody that they can manipulate or somebody that has the cure. It's never just, we like Ellie for Ellie. And
it's like, I see your potential and I want to make you that.
Yeah, I see your potential and I want you to become what I think you should be. And Joel is just more like, first gruff, doesn't really care, thinks she's cargo, and at the end of the day, he falls in love with her because he loves her for who she is, not because she's this potential cure or this potential leader.
Exactly. She's a bad pun connoisseur.
Yes. Funny, silly, tough, smart.
Skeptical,
you know, honest, all those things that make a good person, but he doesn't care about her being a leader or anything. He wants the opposite. He wants her to be able to stay innocent, stay funny, stay all those things that make her not a hardened post-apocalypse survivor.
Hell yeah.
After this guy is talking about him wanting her to become an officer, and she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. She just sort of agrees with him. I do feel like after talking about this and sort of seeing the finale, I know I was the one that was like, don't bring up the finale, but now I'm seeing like all these things that I want to talk about because the finale was like crazy. Anyway, I kind of feel like her journey is to basically become a mini Joel, even though I haven't played Last of Us 2, I get impressions, I'm trying to like stay away from spoilers, but that she becomes sort of hardened like Joel becomes from his experiences at the early apocalypse. And she's just learning from him all the ways to close herself off too. That obviously will come later. I don't know how you feel. I know that you've watched playthroughs of Last of Us. Do you think that prediction might be right?
I think that you have a pretty good grasp of the arc of Last of Us 2.
Yes! I knew it!
But also, it's kind of controversial, but it's sort of a torture porn game, some people say.
Oh.
There's a lot of bad shit that happens, and some people think that maybe it didn't have to be as bad as it was. So hopefully the show is a little bit less bad.
Aw, because the show definitely steps away from showing so much of that kind of stuff. It's definitely got a purpose in Last of Us. Any torture scenes or really hyper-violent scenes, I think they bookend it with reasons for why this scene is happening. And then they avoid scenes that make you feel even more terrible. And I actually bring that up later, but we can move on from that.
Yeah, so then it transitions to Ellie being in her dorm room, I guess. It shows that she's alone. There's another bed, but it's empty. She's reading a comic, which is the Savage Starlight comic that she bonded with Sam, the Endure and Survive. Wait, Endure and Survive.
Paul's trying to do the ASL Endure and Survive, and it was pretty pathetic.
It was horrible.
Just seeing the comic, of course, immediately makes you think of Sam, and I definitely was like, flashbacks to that scene. But
yeah,
I love all the little callbacks in the room.
I paused on the comics to read what they were saying, and they look like legitimate comics. They're good.
I'm sure that the showmakers maybe just had somebody make the comic so that the characters could read them, you know?
So she puts the comic away and goes to bed because some douchebag says lights out ladies or whatever. And we also see the posters on her wall. We see basically everything that Ellie could do to make the place herself, to show who she is. So there's moon phases, there's Mortal Kombat 2 poster.
Yeah, the AHA tapes and the Etta James tapes are there. And The fact that they take shots specifically of each one of these items makes me really feel like, again, we're in a game moment here where you're the player character and you're walking around and you're clicking on all these little items going, oh, what is this? Oh, it's Etta James. Oh, it's a poster. And you can zoom in and look at it.
And read the lore.
So I had a funny question for you, Paul. If you were a player character walking through your own room, what kind of items would give them clues about who you are?
On the wall behind me, I have a bunch of hats. I don't wear hats as a human, as a normal person, but I LARP. And so I have a hat for several of my different characters that I've played. I've got guitars hanging against the wall. There's a picture of my mom, and there's a picture from my great uncle who was an artist. I think those would be the biggest clues.
For me, when I look back there, I also see your piano.
Oh, yes, my keyboard.
Your keyboard, and it's electric keyboard. So if they were to push a button that was like an automatic song that would play on your keyboard, what would it be?
It's probably the Waltz of Amelie.
Oh, I wish we could have you play it right now, but is that from the movie Amelie?
It is, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's like the main theme, yeah.
So for me, I'm looking around my crazy room. First,
roses.
They would realize, yes, I like roses. And also, it's a complete mess compared to your room. I've got things on the floor. I've got costumes. I definitely like to wear costumes for Halloween and other parties. I've got pictures of my dogs. Got grow lights, so they would know I would like to make
things grow.
And books.
Books,
costumes, dogs, roses, and plants. So that's pretty much... Oh, and there is one picture of Andrew, too.
He rates. He's in the top 10.
I love the idea that there is more pictures of my dogs than of Andrew in my room.
It kind of it tracks with video game logic, right? Like that the most important thing is perhaps a little hidden.
It's true. If I look over from my screen, I can see 2 pictures of Andrew directly. He's actually is in the most prominent spot.
That's right.
Paul.
That's even more video game. You have to get into their prime position to see what matters to them.
Exactly.
Then you can guess their password.
Okay, so
continuing on, Riley does something that I think is really stupid. She sneaks into Ellie's room while Ellie's asleep. It's like 1:53 in the morning, and she puts her hand over Ellie's mouth. As any right-thinking human would do, Ellie defends herself and beats the shit out of Riley. Pulls out her switchblade and is about to stab, and that's when Riley puts her hand out and says something like, it was better in my mind.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
In my mind, it worked better.
There it is.
In this scene, I was like, oh, that's where Riley learned how to fight, because Ellie beats her up and takes her out.
Maybe other people thought that Ellie was letting Riley be the bruiser, but maybe Ellie was just training Riley to be a better bruiser.
Or maybe Riley knew Ellie would hold no punches. And so
it's a mercy.
She always, yeah, exactly. She always fought for Ellie because she knew Ellie would probably just
murk a dude.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That seems legitimate.
I like that.
And we see that Ellie is wearing a little bit of pink here. Even though she's not girly, she does always kind of have something pink on. And she does not disappoint in this episode with the pink striped shirt.
That's right. Riley confesses and tells Ellie what she's been up to. She says that she's joined the Fireflies. She apologizes, but not fully. We'll get to that later. But wants to take Ellie out for, quote, the night of her life. And there's a beautiful bit of meta reasoning where she says, you're going to say no, but then you'll say yes. And of course, Ellie says yes because of that.
I think Ellie just can't say no to Riley. She keeps coming back to Riley, even though Riley's done a lot of stupid shit because she's in love with her. She can't say no.
She doesn't even know she's in love with her, but yeah.
I think she knows. There's so many good awkward teenage moments where she doesn't want Riley to see her changing.
You're right. I said that she didn't know that she was attracted, but I guess maybe the better thing to say is she didn't know how to say it.
Or she's afraid of her
to say
attraction.
it. Yeah, it's just a big nebulous question mark, and
yes.
That's the fun of their budding relationship tonight. So they get out on the streets, they call Fedra a bunch of idiots, and then Fedra almost catches them, and they're like, maybe they're not so stupid.
So they're going to the roof in an apartment building, and this is where they find the dead body, and I referenced it earlier in the episode. Again, another incident of suicide. At the very beginning of Ellie's life, she's aware of, like, Riley goes, oh, he should have known that he shouldn't mix pills and alcohol. Like, she didn't figure it out that it was suicide. And Riley's like, you know what this is. Don't even pretend.
Yeah, that's some really good not saying it out loud, but, like, you know.
Yeah. Ellie is, and you mentioned it early, skeptical. And I think Riley is definitely more of a romantic. She's very much like, we can change the system, we can do this. And Ellie's like, I don't know about that. Like, I'm comfortable in the situation that I have. Have you ever seen a dead body? I don't really think Riley had seen one like this. I mean, she does say that she saw her parents' bodies. You can already see that Ellie is a little bit like Joel in the fact that she's tough. She's always skeptical. She's always like, let's
just take whatever we need from the body.
Exactly.
Actually, that makes me think that there's some interesting lore in the world there, because the orphanage, if they're asking questions like, have you seen a dead body before? That must mean that they're protected from the world that Joel is living in, where there are people dropping bodies of dead children into fires. So the kids are probably shielded from that.
Yeah, for sure. They are spending all their days running and preparing and are probably never let outside, really. That's why this is so exciting to Ellie.
Exactly. It's amazing that they don't have bars on their windows. But yeah, so the dude drank himself to death. The pills obviously helped, and they took his alcohol, and that's how we know that Ellie's had alcohol before.
When Ellie, in that moment with the fire where she asks for the whiskey, she's just trying to make a connection with Joel. And it's the same kind of here. They're drinking the alcohol to loosen up, to have that connection. They have a lot of conversations sort of up on the roof. Ellie's obsession with guns is unmatched. We've talked about it multiple times, and this is the first time she once again asks for a gun.
Let me hold it. I want to touch it. Give me the gun. Give me the gun. I want to...
Exactly. I got a clip of that. Let's take a listen to that clip.
Can I hold your gun?
They kind of made me swear not to let other people handle my sidearm.
Not to handle my sidearm because I'm such a fucking firefly. Give me your gun.
All right, fine.
Ellie's got a gun.
Gun. Ellie's got a gun. It's just so funny to me. This is the first time she gets a gun. Ooh, it's heavy. Ooh, my. She just has a fascination with killing, that's for sure.
At the very least, she believes that guns are self-defense and she needs self-defense.
Makes sense. There's also kind of a funny scene right after the gun part where she is questioning her about how she joined the Fireflies. So what did you get, like a boyfriend and he got you to join the Fireflies? I love these casual asks to see if she's into dudes, and they're kind of joking around. I mean, every moment in this episode, you get the side eyes of people who are attracted to each other and the looks. And I love that they're kind of bringing in that awkward teenager love drama, but it's a really serious, crazy world that they're living in.
Yeah. And it's not subtle, but she probably thinks she's being super subtle.
And you can kind of tell that Riley knows what's going on. Riley is giving all of the signals. Riley does like a bunch of falls and accidental touches. She's giving Ellie the signals. She knows Ellie is awkward about it. And so she's giving Ellie the opportunity to be the one to make the first move. But at the same time, I'm just like, Riley, you know what's up? Just why don't you make the first move? Why are you making Ellie do it? Obviously, she's really nervous about it.
But she's trying to make her first move. And it's sort of her last move since she, plans on leaving. Plans on leaving town. I'm not talking about that. So the casting for the character of Riley, they picked an actress who could make the difficult job of putting Ellie in a submissive position. Like the fact that Ellie's so tough and just amazing, they needed someone to make her feel awkward and stupid and like just put her on her back foot all the time. I think they did a great job.
They did. I actually, in my mind, remember when we were talking about Bill and Frank being a dom and a sub? So the clip that I just played of Ellie demanding the gun, in my mind, it's like, Ellie is such a dom because she doesn't say, please hand me the gun. She's like, just give me the gun. Give it. And you're right that they needed somebody who could match her energy and also be a little softer than Ellie, because Ellie, she's got a lot of sharp edges to her. And there's lots of scenes where Riley says things like, you know, you're not always right, being reasonable with Ellie, trying to get Ellie to think outside of her box that she's put herself in.
Yeah, and that's what's so beautiful about this very short relationship. It basically sets Ellie on a path that will, in every episode, you can see the effects that Riley had on her without anyone ever saying anything about it.
I guess to us it's a short relationship, but I also realized that there's a scene where they talk about they've been best friends forever, and I realize, oh, wait, they've known each other for a really, really long time. And I think they do a good job of expressing that knowledge of each other without us having to have seen their whole relationship in flashbacks.
Yep, also true. So getting back to the story, your next note is about Marlene, I think, and saying 40, 50, you know, old.
Yeah, I was super offended that I was considered old at 40, because come on, man, I'm not that old.
I remember as a 7-year-old, I watched The Little Mermaid, and when Ariel says, I'm 15 years old, I was like, yeah, she's old. So old is just a thing that younger people call people who are not that young.
It is interesting how your idea of old changes once you pass 30, I think. When you're in your 20s, you're still kind of learning who you are. But once you get to 30, I mean, you can change, but I think a lot of personality traits and things are hard to change once you get to that age. And I think the differences in ages aren't so enormous seeming. For example, I've made a lot of friends at 40 that are in their early 30s. I don't feel like there's a big difference in the kind of people that we are, except for maybe they know a little bit more about certain things like new technologies or whatever.
I remember in Alaska, we went to a Denny's and Andrew was looking at the wrong side of a menu. And do you remember this?
No, I'm just laughing because I just love the idea of Andrew looking at the wrong side of a menu.
So I don't remember exactly what was said, but the server lady was nice to him and said, that's not for you. And he's like, well, I don't know, maybe like someday soon. And he was looking at like the 60 or older section.
He's such an idiot sometimes. As we all are.
Of course.
We had a really sweet thing happen to us in a Denny's when we had that young love where you can't look away from your significant other.
Aww.
Andrew and I were sitting at a Denny's and we were being like super cute as a young couple, I guess. And we went up to pay our bill and they're like, oh, your bill's already been paid. Aww. And we're like, what? And it's like that older couple saw you guys sitting and they paid your bill for you. And I was like, we were so cute back then.
We need to look at each other all the time.
Now we're just grizzled and old and skeptical.
And yet you seem to still look at each other like that. So good job.
That's true. I still love him. Despite his being an idiot. No, there's a lot of conversation going on between them as they're hopping around the roof. Again, Fireflies versus Fedra is being talked about between Ellie and Riley. And I feel like we've been talking about this from the very first episode, that there's no good or bad really between the two. And Ellie's sort of on the Fedra side of this argument right now. And Riley's on the Firefly side. I think Ellie makes some really good points, and Riley makes some really good points about, you know, Fedra's there just trying to help people to live, but the Fireflies want a better life, but they're doing it by killing people. So
yeah,
nobody takes the moral high ground, as we've been saying.
Nobody's right. Everyone's got good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one side is a little bit more of a fascistic bag. Quote.
I do like that they know what fascism is. Like, how do they even learn that word in a fascist society? I would imagine they would censor books. I think we can move on to the mall. So they make it to the mall. The lights are on. And Ellie asks, why are the lights on here? And Riley basically describes that they're opening up a new section of the city because there's more people coming in, which is kind of hopeful to even think that there's enough people coming to the QZ that they're still opening up new areas even 20 years later.
Yeah, and at this point, the first time watching through, I was skeptical that Riley could do what she did. But later in the episode, we learned that she's been at this mall for a while. And so clearly she knows how to turn on the power.
Right. And you learn that she's been stationed here by the Fireflies, which makes even more sense. That means somebody walked her through how to turn all the lights on. Yes. But I was also like you, Paul, because I was like, what? How does she do this? Like, how does she know how to do this? But it is a moment that makes me feel like I'm in a game again because you hear the generators come on. I feel like generators are a big thing in video games. You always have to find a generator, turn on a generator. Like in Fallout, you were always turning on generators or taking things out of generators.
Get the gas to the generator.
Yeah. Automatically made me have that game feeling. And then when she looks out and sees all the lights come on in all the different stores, I feel really excited about it. So I can't even imagine what she felt as the character in the TV show. Also, I like that Riley is again making Ellie do something that she doesn't want to do. Ellie's really annoyed because Riley has told her that she needs to go out there and turn left and then turn right and just wait for something to happen. And I'm the kind of person that needs to know what's going to happen next. And I don't like it when people don't tell me what's happening. So I feel Ellie's pain about these pranking things that keep happening. Like Riley she's romantic. She likes to do surprises. And I don't like surprises, and Ellie doesn't like surprises. But she liked this one in the end. I just wondering, do you have a moment where you were surprised or somebody pranked you?
I think I can genuinely say that I also hate pranks and surprises, and maybe that's why you and I both don't care about spoilers.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
My sister got all of the pranking, surprising genes in the family.
So you've never been pranked?
I've probably been pranked, but...
Or surprised by somebody?
I don't know.
Like, not even a nice surprise?
I've definitely been surprised by stuff. Matt showed up for my birthday a few years ago. Remember when we moved into our first place in Oregon? I had no idea he was going to be there. And so he just walked in and I was like, what the fuck? And that was me being happy, but like I was super surprised and I don't have a great surprise reaction, I guess.
I actually do have good surprise reactions, and Andrew is a freaking pranker. He's toned it down because he knows that I don't like it. But Lou is Andrew's best friend.
They're basically the same person. They're like two halves of the same person.
Yes. They always like sending each other stupid shit. And so it'll be like liquid ass or pranking stuff, right? And so Lou sent Andrew fake vomit in the mail. I wasn't aware of the fake vomit, and so Andrew had put it downstairs, and I got up in the morning, and he was up before me, and he was actually videoing me.
Because he knew.
We walked downstairs, and I was like, oh no, what is that? I'm like, is that vomit? And then I like touch it because I'm gross like that. Because I'm like, what is that?
No, you're just medical.
And also it's like dog vomit. Oh no, did like something happen? And then I was like, hey! And I turn around, I'm like, Andrew, why do you do this to me? And he is laughing so hard. So I got tricked by fake vomit.
How have I not seen this video?
I should ask him if he still has that fake vomit video. Well, maybe it'll be a bonus thing that people get to watch is me reacting to fake vomit.
I do remember a prank that I was involved in.
Oh.
This was my first year in college, and Matt and Lou were both doing natural resource management, and so they were doing a bunch of biological classes at the time, and Matt told me that if you put leaves in water and let it sit for a while, it will smell terrible. So, of course, I got a Snapple bottle and I filled it with water and I put a bunch of leaves in it and then I just sealed it and let it sit for a month, at least a month.
Oh, damn.
So it was just sitting there on my bookshelf for all this time. And then one day I was playing Worms with Andrew and Lou and Matt. And Andrew and Lou were roommates at the time and they were kicking my ass at the game because I'm not a very competitive player. So I decided to go the other route of tricking them. So I took the Snapple bottle and I went to their room. It was like one floor down and a couple rooms over. And I opened the lid and I just blew the contents, blew it under their door. And then I sealed it up and went back to my room and continued playing. And I later learned that they both thought the other person had farted. So it worked.
That's hilarious. That's good.
I think Lou came to my room shortly thereafter and took the lid off of it so that it was also my problem.
I'm sure he's definitely a revenge kind of person.
Very much so. So I ended up pouring the contents of the bottle out by the bench outside of the dorm room, which is where all the smokers were, in hopes of making the smokers also smell how awful things are. So yeah, that's probably my best prank story.
That's good. So to return to kind of this cute moment, I love how much Riley looks over at Ellie and is like, "Oh, I'm like giving you this moment." And then Ellie looks to her and says, "You made plans?" And Riley's looks like, "Of course I made plans, you silly bitch. Like, I fucking love you. Like, ah."
Read between the lines.
I'm a romantic. The next few moments are them going through the mall, looking in the mall windows, and there's kind of a funny scene where they see some lingerie, and Riley says, "I'm just trying to imagine you in that," and laughed at her, kind of, and I was like, yeah, you were imagining her in that, and you wet your fucking Fedra issue panties when you were thinking about it.
That is one of those jokes that isn't a joke, that if Ellie was at all savvy about this kind of thing, that could have been the end of the question mark. They could have just made out right there.
Exactly. And right after she says that, Riley walks away and Ellie starts fixing her hair in the reflection of the window.
Yes. Like, she was absolutely thinking that way.
Aware of the subtext of that, what was just said. And they are holding hands as they're walking along. You don't usually just hold hands with best friends. I mean, I guess sometimes best friends hold hands, but I mean, there's lots of these little moments, right, that I'm keying in on that they're gonna be girlfriends. After the lingerie scene, they end up at the merry-go-round. Again, Ellie's entranced by every single wonder.
I would be too. When I played this scene in the game, it was fucking magic. I would die if somebody brought me to a mall that was abandoned and then there was a fucking merry-go-round in it.
Yeah, it's super cool looking. And just not even understanding that level of joy yet in your life.
Yes.
You know how little kids just love merry-go-rounds? This is her first time ever experiencing that. She doesn't even know what a merry-go-round in a playground is. So yeah. The idea that this is her first experience is really fun.
Didn't she have some confusion when she got on it too? Like what she's allowed to do or something?
What do I do?
Yeah.
And I love the song that they picked. I kind of looked that up too because I recognized it, but I didn't know how I recognized it. And I love The Cure. And I guess there's this band called Rockabye Baby that does kid versions of older songs. It was just a really good tone for that scene, and there's a lot of significant looks between Riley and Ellie in this scene. I don't know, it was
amazing. I am a whore. That's it.
Yes, you are.
The end. I am a whore for cover music, and specifically like music box covers or merry-go-round, I guess, covers. It's just my jam. So when that started playing, I immediately picked up on it being The Cure, and I just loved that they used that at a merry-go-round.
Totally agree. After you get the cute looks, they do a really rough musical transition when the merry-go-round stops. And I feel like that moment, they definitely did that on purpose as the showrunners to kind of show that Every moment in Ellie's life starts out lovely and then ends with this like horrific kind of just horror-esque sound that it made when it stopped making the music.
You can't have anything nice, Ellie.
Yeah, you can't have any happiness in your fucking world because it's just going to turn into that horrible sound.
Yup.
And Riley, after that, or she does explain to Ellie why she joined the Fireflies was because she was aging out of the orphanage program and they were going to give her sewage detail.
Yeah, that's not a great thing to tell someone who's about to graduate your school. You don't matter. You're just going to be our sewage worker.
Also, do you think that they were doing that because they knew that she was friends with Ellie and they wanted Ellie to be an officer, so they didn't want her to influence Ellie away from that path?
That is an interesting hypothesis. I'm going to say yes because I like it.
Good.
No, I like that. And yeah, sewage detail. I had notes on that too about how everyone should do sewage detail, not just like you are the sewage worker. I'd like to bring up that all of this mall stuff was based on the premise that Riley told Ellie that there's 4 wonders of the mall, and we glossed over it, but Ellie was so amazed by the escalator going down into the mall that they had to amend it and make it 5 wonders.
Yeah, that was a good scene, and that's where they play Aha.
Take on me.
Take on me in that scene. That's another scene where Ellie falls and Riley catches her and kind of holds on to her a little longer than normal. And then Ellie's like, get off me. My body's all tingly. I don't like it. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
And then with all that zoomies she got from that, she was running up the escalator.
Oh, yeah, she did get the zoomies, didn't she? Get out of my way. I love the escalator. I don't want to know that you touched me.
So the next wonder that Riley was ready to show Ellie was the time machine. I mean, photo booth. So they go into the photo booth, and I don't know, is it just a thing about girls that they just know what their next pose is? Because they seem to always just know what their next pose is.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a photo booth with a girl before, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Like, we all conform in the right way in those moments, for sure.
Well, it's awesome. Good job for you guys.
Because we're just good at being silly, and I think boys don't know how to be silly as well.
Boys
sometimes.
got that ego where they got to be like, what do I look like?
And that's why I like all my guy friends. Good on all of you for being just wonderful humans, wonderful examples of men in a world where masculinity is
Toxic.
Toxic, yes. And I feel like my favorite photos of all of us, of Andrew and I, of Andrew Lou and I, of all of us, is when we're making the silly faces because we're actually having fun in them. And when you just pose for a picture, you're like, hey, I'm posing for a picture. I guess I'm smiling now. But when you're silly, that's when you can really just see the light in people's eyes, the twinkle.
We're keeping it real here.
Silly photos. But again, there's another moment here where they do their scary pose, which I think is a classic, almost direct image from the game where she has the photos of her and Riley. And another awkward moment where, again, Ellie is really like, I don't like it when you're touching me because I'm feeling my lady boner.
And it's 2003, so or something close to 2003, so I don't understand homosexuality.
They kind of keep showing us these images of her wanting to like Riley, but not knowing how to express it.
Yep. And so the photos get printed. That's the only photo Ellie gets to keep of Riley. And so that's awesome. And in the game, this was a moment where there was an option to do different poses and then share it on Facebook. And then if you click the option, it's like, Facebook is not operational. Which is...
Oh, I remember that!
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
My God. Paul! What? Wow, it's so fun when you pull those memories. It's just like pulling a real life memory, but it's from a video game.
Yeah, the photo booth was an amazing scene, and then on to the fourth wonder of the mall, Raja's Arcade.
Oh, yes. This is also where Ellie says it's the most beautiful thing ever, but Riley's looking at Ellie when she's saying that. Because Riley thinks Ellie's the most beautiful thing ever.
I love that we're talking about this, because I didn't notice some of the things you're talking about. So I get to re-experience them.
So I feel like those kinds of looks are happening all the time.
You're totally right. So we're at the arcade. I was a little amazed at how many still working machines there were, but I'm not going to question it. In the game, I think that there's no working machines, and that's why it was a mind theater where it was told to her what was happening, and she played with it. But yeah, it was great that it was a working arcade. We learned that Riley spent time busting open the coin machine so that they could use coins to operate the machines, and they played Mortal Kombat 2.
All right, let's listen to our reaction to that.
I feel like it would be pretty amazing if you had never experienced anything like this before to suddenly be in a mall, because the mall just has so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes me happy to imagine being the only person in an arcade and just being able to play any game I want.
Oh man, ground control would be so much better if I was the only person there.
Mortal Kombat! Flawless victory.
She also spent an hour yesterday playing this just to be superior at it.
I love that they get the flawless victory in there. Because that's from Mortal Kombat, like one of the classic lines.
Flawless victory. Animality. Yeah, Riley kicks Ellie's ass at this game. So that's why I was talking about her practicing it.
And when Paul said ground control, we actually have a really cool arcade here in Portland, Oregon. That's called Ground Control. It's amazing. They have a bathroom. Actually, Andrew knows the tiler that did this amazing bathroom tile where it's all Mario Brothers and the question mark blocks and stuff in the bathroom.
I don't know what the girls' bathroom
cool.
looks like, but yes, that is a good description of the men's bathroom. This was the scene that Ellie referenced in, episode 3 or 4, where she was talking about the arcade to Joel.
4.
Yeah, this is the scene she talked about in the abandoned gas station.
While they're playing in the arcade, they do a cut scene and kind of go through the hallways of the mall, and you get to a room where there's a zombie waking up. And again, it's another one of those zombies that's sort of stuck to the wall and has mycelium growing up the back of the wall. And I do think they do a great job of making that very artistic looking and kind of beautiful and horrible.
Yep. And I also want to note that my notes for this panning to the zombie was that I hated it because I wanted them to keep having fun.
Yeah, you're immediately like, no, you know what's going to happen. I'm still upset that they haven't really shown the mushroom spores. I guess that's a lie. I'm not really that upset about it. But it's curious that they've chosen not to use the spores. But I get it, because you would put the mask on in the game to get through the spores, and you don't want your characters to be wearing gas masks throughout the game, so it just makes sense to keep the spores out of it.
Ooh, you just brought up a fun element that I don't think we've discussed. In a lot of sci-fi, specifically shows and movies, they put masks on people, but they light their faces from within so that we can see them.
Yeah.
But in reality, that would be horrible mask design because you've got lights blaring into your face and you can't see anything.
I feel like we've had this conversation so many times about this masks with lights in them. Every time we watch a science fiction movie, for example, Aliens is really bad about that. I remember the first time we watched Aliens being very annoyed by the fact that there was lights inside the helmet pointed at the person's face. And every movie of Aliens has that in it. And Abyss has it. Probably Interstellar has it.
It's everywhere.
And it makes sense, I guess, for the movie, but
it's a perfect movie decision that is so not real.
Stupid for the rest of the world. They transition back to the arcade, and Riley, like Paul has described, beat the shit out of Ellie, but they're super excited and they're just like having a lot of fun. And then they stop, and we've talked about the feelings eyeballs, and they give each other feelings eyeballs, and this is an almost kiss moment, I feel like.
There were like 6 of them already, right?
But this is like closest so far. They're kind of start leaning towards each other, and I feel like Ellie breaks it off, doesn't she?
That's a good question.
No, I think Riley, for whatever reason,
probably to show her the next thing, right? She's still excited about this Four Wonders.
And I think they're just not ready for it in that moment, right? Riley walks away because she wants to tell Ellie
the truth
about her leaving before they kiss or before they have any of these moments that would mean they're together, or before Ellie doesn't get to make a choice. And that's another thing Riley lets Ellie do, make decisions about what's going to happen with her life. And she tells her that she has a gift for her, and then they head towards her little sleep room. And I just love that one of the little things that Ellie says is it tacos?
Is it tacos?
So tacos are still a thing in the post-apocalypse.
Apocalypse Taco Tuesday. So the pun book shows up.
No pun intended, too. It's here. This is where she gets it.
Yeah.
And I love the giggles. It's sort of reminiscent of the gas station scene. I guess I didn't realize there were so many connections to that episode with Joel. But of course that makes sense.
Because everything's connected in this game. I said game.
Oh, you did say game. This is very much a game episode. But they have the giggles and they start telling each other jokes from the pun
And then
book.
Ellie is wandering around snooping like she always does and finds that Riley's got pipe bombs, which isn't...
Your face. She's got pipe bombs.
It's not as bad as herpes. No, herpes is fine. She finds that Riley is probably not being fully honest about her involvement with the Fireflies, and the pipe bombs are absolutely a sign that there's violence built into the equation, and that brings out all their arguments from the rooftop before. And so now Ellie's rightfully quite upset because she doesn't even know, like, was I brought here under false pretenses? Like, what the fuck are you trying to do, Riley? And so, of course, that's when Riley has to confess her true feelings and say that, hey, I'm leaving to Atlanta tomorrow, and that's why I wanted to do something super romantic with you today. Look, they're teenagers. It doesn't have to make sense.
Well, and I think she was hoping that Ellie could make the choice to come with her.
True.
Or she would maybe have a reason to stay. She's wooing Ellie in these moments. She wants Ellie to give her a reason to stay.
There's a giant question mark hanging in the air, and Riley is giving that question mark to Ellie.
In all the cute little wonders that she's showing her. Sorry. Yes, there's pipe bombs.
The pipe bombs kind of popped the magic a little bit for Ellie, and so she leaves. She decides that she doesn't want to finish the night.
I'm gonna say right now, spoiler alert for the finale episode a little bit. So if you don't want to hear this, kind of fast forward some. But there's a scene in the finale where you learn that Marlene actually knew Ellie as a baby. And Marlene also knew Ellie's mother, and they were friends, Ellie's mother and Marlene. And I feel like part of the reason Marlene said that Ellie couldn't join the Fireflies is because she was trying to keep her safe.
As her promise
To the mother. So that's kind of interesting, but also, why would you give this baby that you promised over to Fedra?
Especially because she hates Fedra. She's a leader of the Fireflies.
Yeah. Anyway, I was kind of upset with Marlene when you learn that basically Ellie spent her whole life in a Fedra orphanage. Wasn't the point that you fucking take care of Ellie? Maybe things would have been different for Ellie if she was actually raised by someone that's not Fedra.
For sure. I think we can bridge that gap with the fact that Marlene didn't want to do that. And so she probably has mixed feelings about giving Ellie to Fedra. She probably gave her up in desperation or in a desperate moment, perhaps, and was flip-flopping on the matter Ellie's entire life, because that's definitely the feeling that I get from their relationship together when they talk together in the brief minutes they do.
I thought that based on how Ellie was talking in the finale, that she knew Marlene more than she actually did. I mean, she only knew her in those moments when she was with Firefly, but she makes it sound like she knew her a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's actually a mistake on the writer's part or not. I'll have to rewatch the finale again, but...
Definitely, and I want to give the writers credit because they think about so many things. So I'm going to just say that it's not a mistake, probably.
Maybe I found like the one mistake, but
I mean, these things, they're guaranteed to have mistakes. But I think that Marlene is just really mixed on her feelings on Ellie. And in the finale, I hate that we're talking about it already, but the fact that they put Ellie under without Marlene even talking to her feels like the only way Marlene can do it, because she's breaking her promise and she hates that, but she's also saving society. Anyhow.
So I'm going to book in this. This is the end of the spoilers. So if you look at the chapters, and you can just skip the spoiler finale chapter. All right, moving on.
Right, so Ellie leaves. She's planning to go back to bed. It's probably like, she said 4 a.m. and she has to be up in like 2 hours, but she changes her mind.
Well, so she's walking through the mall and she hears screaming.
Because of Scream, that's it.
And she thinks Riley is under attack or something. So she starts running through the mall and is like, Riley, are you okay? And gets to this storefront where it's a screaming fake skeleton thing from the horror store.
And so her response when she realizes it was not Riley, not that Riley was doing anything to prank her, but she said, I want to punch you so bad.
And Riley's sitting in there kind of dejected, and again, Ellie cannot resist Riley, and they have a conversation, and she forgives Riley, and you know she forgives her because she asks for the pun book back.
Yep.
Because she takes her gift. And I feel like these people that are around Ellie and Joel kind of like pull some, like really punch them right in the heart, like whenever they're talking to them. Like when Tommy tells Joel, just because your life ended when your daughter died. And I feel like this is the same thing that Riley says. It's kind of like digging it in deep. I had a family. That's why I need the Fireflies. You don't know what it means to have a family or what it feels like to have a family. It's like, fuck you, Riley. Like, this is the only time that I'm like, Riley, you're being kind of a bitch.
It's
right
literally
now.
the only time Riley is awful for what she has said.
Yes. I mean, maybe that's the only way you can reach Joel and Ellie, by really just telling them how it is. You don't understand because you have not experienced this in the same way that I have.
That's true. We have different experiences in life, and maybe it's a little bit perceptive of them to say, hey, you as an orphan did not have this experience. It's still really brutal the way they say it, though.
Yeah, exactly. But they kind of forgive each other, and then Riley hands Ellie a mask, and Ellie does not really know what to do with it. And Riley's just like, put it on because it's fun. And I don't know about you, but I fucking hate those plastic masks. Have you ever put one on? It smells disgusting.
Smells bad. You can't
like,
hear anything. You can't see anything.
Yeah, it is not fun to wear those masks. And that mask's super fucking creepy.
But they're also
the clown
perfectly from the game, so.
Yeah, it's true, but it's ew, gross. That is not romantic. That's just disgusting. Because when they take the mask off to kiss, you'd just be smelling that gross plastic mask smell.
I think the best movie that dealt with those masks is, I think, the original Halloween, where one of the opening scenes, you just see a little bit of the vision and you hear like your own breathing. Like, it's so accurate.
Gosh, that's good. Yeah, it is accurate and disgusting.
Gross.
So they play I Got You, Babe by Etta James, and Riley's again initiating that fun silliness and gets Ellie to jump up on the countertops to dance with her. And then they pull their masks off and they kiss. Ellie initiates a kiss.
Finally.
And she's not rejected. Makes me so happy that, I mean, obviously we knew she wasn't going to be rejected, but still you can see the gay panic on Ellie's face because she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it, just in case.
I don't think that's what the definition of gay panic is, but I love your definition way better.
Well, I've been watching these like funny reaction videos from Stranger Things, and there's all these times when Will is like looking at his best friend and they like put above his head gay panic because he's always he's in love with his best friend, but he can't do anything about it, right? So he's panicking.
That's great. Also, you should be in love with your best friend because that's the best love, right?
It is true. I have that, I must say, with Andrew, so I'm lucky.
I want to point out that they're playing I Got You, Babe, and at the part where it says, when I'm sad, you're a clown, it showed Riley in the clown face mask, and that was really good.
That is good. I noticed that as well. We do have a reaction to that kiss, which I'm not surprised. It's one of the better reactions that we've had.
Aww.
Aww.
Aww. Aww, look at that smile. They're so cute. Eh, shit.
Oh, no.
Stab him in the head. Yeah, there you go. Whew. That switchblade been through some shit.
it is such a juxtaposition when we're like, oh, like, I feel those reactions are so just naturally what you should feel. Oh, shit, here comes the zombie.
Why can't we just have a good makeout session?
Why can't love just be love and not have to be interrupted by death every time in The Last of Us?
Fucking zombies.
Never a good moment. I mean, there's not a lot to say about the zombie attack. I mean, it's incredibly intense. The switchblade gets used for the first time to stab a zombie in the head. Well, maybe not for the first time. I don't know. Ellie might have killed a zombie before, but I think this is the first time that she's actually had to commit violence based off what she told Joel.
Yeah, which is interesting because she's carried that knife literally her entire life.
Mm-hmm. Well, she pulls it on Riley.
True.
So maybe she's just had to defend herself from
That's
humans.
true.
Who knows?
We sort of missed a bit where Ellie tells Riley not to go, and Riley says okay. So the decision was made right before the zombie hit.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, so they were going to be together, and
why can't we live in the world where they were together?
What would have happened, or what do we think would have happened if Riley and Ellie had lived out their life? And in my mind, it would be that they would be such badasses together. Can you imagine both of them?
Oh, yeah.
I think they could have changed the world of the QZ for the better.
To exist, Ellie and Riley couldn't have been bit. I guess it's possible Ellie could have been bit and survived, but like, I don't see it. There'd be no Last of Us as we see it because I think Ellie would have just lived a as normal as can be life, and it would have been pretty good.
Yeah. It does a cut right after the scene where they kill the zombie to Ellie frantically searching the house for anything that could help Joel, and she ends up finding a needle and thread later. And I think they just kind of do a couple of cuts here and there in between the scene where they're talking about they got bit, what are they going to do, and Ellie helping Joel.
Okay, yeah. Because of all of these cuts, I was losing track, but it cuts to Ellie pulling out a drawer, finding the thread needed to sew Joel's wound up, and then back to them. Ellie is fully enraged by the fact that she believes she's going to die. Riley is resigned to it, more or less, and so you get this interesting contrast of different attitudes to being bit.
And then Riley, being the romantic that she is, says something along the lines of, let's just lose our minds together, which is fucking sweet, very adorable.
The way I see it, we got two options. One, we take the easy way out. It's quick, painless. No, I don't like option one. Option two, we just keep going.
What are you talking about, Riley? It's over.
It will be, but not yet. It ends this way for everyone sooner or later, right? Some of us just get there faster than others. But we don't quit. Whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days, we don't give that up. I don't want to give that up. We can just be all poetic and shit and lose our minds together.
Some of us just get there faster than others, but we don't quit. We can just be all poetic and shit and lose our minds together.
Aw, yeah, it's a good line.
And it comes back later.
It does, yeah. Definitely way different than how they would have handled it in a different zombie movie. It's always, who's gonna shoot that person next? Even if you're both bit, somebody's gotta, like, take a bullet in the mouth and then kill the other person so that you don't come back as a zombie.
Yeah.
But I like this idea of just dying together as zombies. Stay with each other in the moment as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
It's very
It
sweet.
is sweet. and it's also hopeful. And is it The Fog? There's a Stephen King book that was a movie where it was like a fuck you to the people who just end it. So at the end of the movie, there's like the dad and the kid and a couple other people.
The Mist?
And he has just enough bullets for everybody but himself. And so he shoots them all, and then the mist goes away and the army's there and everyone's saved. And the people who kept hope were all happy, and he just murdered everyone that he cares about. Whoopsie.
Yeah, I mean, that leads pretty well into this other comment that I was going to say, that I kind of dig that they avoid the grotesqueness of witnessing loved ones die. Other shows always just show the brutality of like having to kill your loved one. And this show instead, even though it's a sad, bittersweet moment, you keep the bittersweetness instead of the horror. You don't end with the horror, you end with the sweetness.
Yeah.
And like Bill and Frank, you don't ever see their dead bodies. They just go away and you watch them kind of in their lives the way that they wanted to. And in this scene, you don't witness the scene where Ellie actually has to stab Riley. She talks about it
later. She does.
But you don't witness it. And I think that is the exact right move for the showrunners to make.
For sure. And maybe they can get away with that because there's so many other shows that do the brutal, grotesque thing. But to me, it definitely feels more realistic where, like for me, my mom died. I went to her funeral. I saw her body at the funeral. That's not how I remember her. I remember her as a living person who likes Coca-Cola and makes amazing food and is sarcastic and stays up late.
Loves African gray parrots.
Yes, Ellie gets the needle and thread, quest item as you say, and she goes to stitch up Joel.
This is the end scene. She finds the needle and the thread. She goes downstairs. She pulls his jacket open.
Okay, I do have a note on that. Because Joel looks at her, and in my mind, I'm thinking he's like, what the fuck are you doing still here? I said go away like 10 seconds ago.
Get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of here! No, instead it's a look of, you came back, and then he holds her hand. Aww. And it makes me cry thinking about it. Everything about this show makes me cry between Ellie and Joel.
Yeah. And so she shows her medical expertise of stitching up what looks like a fucking bite wound. This is, I think, the biggest mistake they made in the show.
Yeah, because if anybody found that, they'd be like, obviously, it's a bite wound.
Yeah, it's not, he wasn't stabbed with a knife. That's a bite.
They're continuously showing how competent Ellie is and how much of a badass she is. I love that this show shows you what all the adults are telling you, which is she's a leader, she takes charge, she is smart, she's all those things, and she makes up her own mind. She doesn't listen to what Joel told her to do.
Never unless it makes sense.
Exactly. And I love that they've made this character so competent. It's kind of like the competency porn from The Next Generation, but in a more visceral, like, I don't know, I just like it more. And then the show's over.
That's the episode. It was literally a minute of real-time stuff happening, plus an amazing flashback.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, we're done. A very cliffhangy ending. I
also sort of had an Indiana Jones moment when she was fixing Joel, where like, all she had to do is get the Holy Grail and pour the water on him.
It did kind of look like that, didn't it? If only she could have found the Holy Grail quest item that heals everyone.
That's her mistake.
And this episode leads into another episode that's going to be super fucking long because Paul and I are going to have a lot to say about this episode.
So much to say.
I'm like, should I make this into a two-parter? We'll get through it, but I feel like this was a good way to end it. So for sure. You're in the moment of things are going to get real, and then they cut, and the next episode is just going to be full of a lot of tension. I wanted to mention that I'm going to be live streaming a replay of me playing The Last of Us again, which I haven't done since the original time I played it, so that'll be fun.
So exciting.
Maybe turning those into mini episodes. I'm not sure how I'm going to make all that work, but if you're interested in something like that, I would love to hear from you. But otherwise, this episode is over. So thank you for joining us. You can email me at idleridepodcast@gmail.com or check me out on the social medias at Idle Ride Podcast on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you have a second, rate us on Apple Podcast or wherever your podcasts are downloaded so that we can get other people listening to us. All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.